I mean, here's the thing: 50 minutes, a 45 minutes speech. I think he pissed some people off by being late. I don't exactly know what happened there, but I think that left a pretty sour taste in people's mouths right off the start. But it sounded like they were waiting for Elon. They kept talking about a special guest on the panel, and it sounded like they were waiting for Elon, who didn't show up. That was a special guest. So I'm not entirely sure what happened there. I'm sure there'll be more that comes out, but AD says his speech was the best for the situation. So here's my thoughts on it. Well, I got a lot here, but I'll start with this. It's like he had a 45-minute speech. I think I'll talk about the things that probably pissed people off that I saw anyways. And one of the ones is the crypto stuff. Bitcoiners on Twitter were going batshit about him saying crypto so much. But here's what I took away from that. Two things. Number one, he said it the whole speech. He said Bitcoin and crypto. To me, that means that he's trying to keep them separate. That's what I took from it. He's trying to keep Bitcoin and crypto separate. If he would have just came out and said crypto the whole time and that's all he talked about, I would have been a little bit weary too. But he talked about Bitcoin and he talked about crypto the whole time. And I think he was trying to differentiate the two. So that's the first part. Second part there is that he's a politician. He wants votes. That's why he was there. That's why he's doing everything that he's doing. He wants people to vote for him. That's what politicians do. So if he were to just come out and say Bitcoin and completely ignore the crypto community, that would be a stupid decision, I think. He didn't talk about any cryptos in specific. He didn't say Bitcoin and Ethereum or Bitcoin and Solana or whatever it is. He just said crypto because he wants the crypto community's vote. That's it. So there's a lot of Bitcoiners who were cheesed that he was talking about crypto so much, but that's kind of my thoughts on it. Is he was just talking about he was pandering to more people. It's what politicians do. But the main point of everything there, he didn't say he was going to keep Ethereum reserve. He specifically talked about Bitcoin mining, his Bitcoin reserve, and we'll keep things moving here. But I'm gonna check on a few different comments here. There's a lot going on. The Zap.stream chat is buzzing. A little too much for me to keep up with right now. Letha says he said Secret Service made him wait. And Craig says the Trump delay was due to the Israel attack. And there were a lot of people. Okay, so let's go to RFK here next. Because that was another point too. Because like you have to ask yourself where RFK fits into this thing. Because everybody's talking about his speech. I haven't watched it yet, so I cannot comment on it. But what my takeaway from that was that the RFK speech was very good. But where does RFK fit into this whole thing? Because he's clearly not going to win, right? And I saw a couple of rumors that he's actually going to he canceled a few of his rallies or their candidate commitments. So he's canceling a couple of these coming up. And I saw that he's actually going to drop out and support Trump. And my thinking too, and I think that there's a couple people in this community here that agree with this, but I think that RFK is actually going to be part of Trump's presidency in some way. Somebody said secretary, what is it? What's their main guy? Secretary of State? I don't know. I'm not overly familiar with the whole U.S. politics. 4 years ago, I had zero interest in U.S. politics, but that's changed quite a bit. Sorry, just reading some comments here. Ninju says, George, do you believe Trump truly knows what he's talking about? That's another thing that I saw is that people were saying that Trump doesn't understand Bitcoin. Based on his speech, people were saying that he has no idea what he's talking about. I completely disagree. The things that he talked about, okay, let me get through a couple of these things here. But one of the ones that he talked about was the fact that Bitcoin will probably overtake gold. That's a bold statement to make in front of a bunch of people who for years and years have thought that gold was the gold standard. gold is the true store of value. And Trump came out and said that Bitcoin will probably overtake gold. So he also said that Bitcoin stands for freedom, sovereignty, and independence from government control. So I guess to answer that question, does Trump understand Taproot? Does he understand the mining process? Does he understand the technology that's being built right now around Bitcoin? I don't know. But he definitely understands where Bitcoin fits into this and how the US can utilize Bitcoin to help pay off the debt. And RFK came out and said that he was going to be, under his plan, he would be buying Bitcoin. I think he said like 50 million a day or something stupid. So RFK kind of went the direction of they're going to buy Bitcoin. Trump went the direction of they're just going to use all the Bitcoin that they already have to back their. Okay, what's going on here? What's a start comment? Oh, we got a new member. Look at that. Daniel Droidser, new member of the Bitcoin Journeyman. Welcome. And thank you for the support. Very, very much appreciated. Craig says RFK for Attorney General. That's what I was thinking of. My Path to Fire says, I can't think of any scenario where a government has a Bitcoin reserve is good. I personally think they will sell to support their fiat scam. I don't know. I would disagree with that because Trump said a couple times now that they're going to be backing that's essentially what he said, that they're going to back the dollar with Bitcoin. And then he came out and said that they're going to use their 230,000 Bitcoin or whatever it is, move it to the US Treasury. So that means that they wouldn't be selling it. They'd be holding it for the country. What else happened here? He made a couple mentions early on in the speech that I thought were very interesting. And the first one was the highly intelligent crowd. He said that a couple times. And to me, with Trump, anything that Trump says, there's always meaning to it. Trump doesn't just say things to say them. I've watched a lot of Trump rallies. I've watched a lot of Trump speeches, and he talks almost in a cryptic way, but everything he says has a meaning. And he was talking about his uncle Trump that was at MIT. And I was thinking about why he would use his short amount of time in this Bitcoin conference to talk about that. He said that he was one of the most respected professors at MIT. Kind of out of nowhere. And he was talking about a highly intelligent crowd. He was talking about MIT. And if you know the relationship between MIT and Bitcoin, I think that's where he was going with that. So to me, why would he talk about that? If there was no relationship to Bitcoin, why would he even mention that? So to me, and this is just like me thinking out loud here, but I know the relationship between MIT and Bitcoin. Gary Gensler actually taught a full course on Bitcoin. It's all available on YouTube. You can go look at it. But to me, that suggests that maybe this has been in the works for longer than we think. Maybe there was some connections there between Trump's uncle, MIT, Bitcoin, Trump now. I don't think there's any sort of coincidence here with why he would talk about that in his speech. I could be wrong. But that was my takeaway from it. He talked about the energy. He talked about wanting to double the electricity of the US to fit the Bitcoin needs and the AI needs, which is good because he's talking about energy. He's talking about the fact that the world needs energy to survive, and not only to survive, but to get to the next chapter in this crazy thing we're going through here. And that was the other thing too. He said that on day one, he was going to fire Gary Gensler, and the crowd went nuts. Like if you watch the speech, you can kind of hear where the crowd's cheering and what they cheered about. But when he said that he was going to fire Gary Gensler on day one, that was the biggest cheer that he got, I think, for the whole speech. And he said it again after. That's how big of a applause he got for it. He said it again, doubled down, which is interesting to me. But good. If that's what he's going with, then I think that's Bitcoiners will like that quite a bit. All right, let's take a comment here from our newest Bitcoin journeyman. Trump does not fully understand Bitcoin, but he knows it's going to be good for freedom. Yeah, that was one of his quotes. He said, Bitcoin stands for freedom, sovereignty, and independence from government control. And he said that anybody who thinks that Bitcoin is a threat to the dollar has it all wrong. And as a Bitcoiner myself, I thought about that for a while, and I thought, is it wrong? Because if Bitcoin actually played out how it should have, if everybody kind of, if everybody would take 10 minutes of their life and figure out what Bitcoin is, it could be something that would hurt the dollar. If everybody just exchanged all their fiat to Bitcoin and said we're exchanging with Bitcoin now as it was made to be, a peer-to-peer electronic cash, then yes, it would be a threat to the dollar. But it seems like with Wall Street, with BlackRock, with the US government, they're going to hold Bitcoin. They're going to have a say in it. And they're probably just going to back their dollar with Bitcoin, which essentially makes it much stronger than it is today. Because the US dollar right now is on a hell path downwards. It's still the number one in terms of the strongest country dollar, but everything's going down. Like I talked about at the start of the show, the prices in the US right now compared to 5 years ago or 10 years ago are insane. Beer's still pretty cheap here compared to Canada, but at the same time, everything is the same price as it is here in Canada, and Canada's very expensive. And so as a Canadian paying for things in the US, it was 1.3 times more than it was. So that anyways, the dollar is toast on the current path that it's on. He said that the Washington, D.C. is more of a threat to the dollar than Bitcoin is. And I agree with that. So what he's going to do here, and this is what the whole game theory around Bitcoin is that they're going to buy Bitcoin. They're going to back their country's currency with Bitcoin. And those are going to be the next superpowers of the world. And unfortunately, I think Canada will be one of the last to do that because we have a clown running our country. So, I mean, if you're an American, this has got to be really good news for you. If not, I just don't see how a Bitcoiner could feel bad about this whole thing. There's people shitting on Trump, saying that he's uneducated about Bitcoin. He said crypto too much, but it's like, how could you couldn't imagine a better scenario for Bitcoin. If you're an American right now, you could not ask for a better situation happening right now. I thought this would take a lot longer to play out than it has. I thought it was going to be 5 or 10 years before the US government would buy Bitcoin and realize that they need to back their currency with Bitcoin. My Path to Fire says you might be right, Jor. That would mean Bitcoin becomes the new denominator. Absolutely. That's exactly what I mean. We don't all have to be using Bitcoin. I think that a lot of people will. And that's actually, I'm going to cut this stream off here right away. And we're going to move to Zap.stream and the second part of the show. And that's what I'm going to talk about, is that with the new denominator, with the currencies, it's going to change everything for us, because Bitcoiners are going to be able to operate in a very different way than we are right now. What I'm going to talk about is you have to really flip your whole brain around to understand where this is going to. And we're still in the very early days of it, and not many people fully understand what's going to happen here. Everybody's still holding on to the fiat baggage that we've had for 50 years. And they're thinking about taxes, they're thinking about the dollar, they're thinking about how this is going to play out. But I have a much different thought on this, and I'm going to talk about it in the second part here.